See, there's a total reversal in the technique used because with O'Neill, it's so largely a question of the fidelity to the word, and still not photographing only people speaking, of finding the cinematic, the sheer camera technique. It illustrates and deepens and reveals that piece more than it's been revealed before, hopefully.
Nevertheless, Mr. Lumet, I think you were very brave to give us scenes like this one, because from the point of view of someone who doesn't understand the work as a whole, this would be a static scene.
It's static. In this instance, it breaks out in other ways. This is actually a very calm and legato moment in a film that gets
Now, may I
quite
ask
frenetic.
a question? Is it essential always to break out into the open when you have another recourse, namely to pull into life so intensely that we get a sense of moving values, you see? In other words, if we're deeply moved, time passes very rapidly.
Well, that's precisely it. But there's where it all starts relating so much to everything else that's happening to all of us. The least trusted thing in film now is the human being. The history of film in the last 10 years is the history, physically in scale, of shrinking the human being's size. Directorial techniques are involving wider and wider uses, broader and broader vistas. The screen itself has been, it's fascinating that in making the screen bigger, they didn't make it bigger in the same proportion that people are. People are taller than they're fatter. They broadened it this way. They didn't broaden it for people, they broadened it for scenery. And primarily that's what the real concern is, because from a sheer cinematic point of view, that horrible word again, there is more cinematic technique in Long Day's Journey into Night, or as much as in the chariot race in Ben-Hur. It's an enormously complicated camera
Except
movie.
that people don't realize it.
They don't realize it because it's good camera technique, which means that you don't see it.
Also, they've been conditioned to thinking of travelogue drama rather than character drama.
Mountains and 5,000 head of cattle, lowering skies, heavy clouds, that's dramatic photography. The fact that a human face changes, that a close-up of Hepburn in the first 30 minutes of the film, as opposed to a close-up of Hepburn at the end of the film, in which you see two different people, in which you see something consumed and an experience digested, in which you see the ravages of a lifetime having taken place before your eyes, that, with a great many critics, the orientation is that's not cinema, because it stayed within the confines of
Shouldn't we
of the
also
house.
point out that this sequence isn't self-sufficient? That it relates.
Well, let's face it. Looking at this on a television set is like looking at Picasso's Guernica on a postcard. When you see this in the theater, it's enormous, and it comes off as a most powerful, moving thing. Here you see it in this tiny little
But I'm
box.
not really thinking
But there's
of
some.
that aspect.
But what I think is the danger that's involved in the theater, or the film director over the theater director, in that on stage, the audience, the point of view of the viewer, has greater flexibility. The stage director, of course, points the viewer to a certain way, but still the viewer can pick and choose what he's going to look at and what he's going to feel about. When you get to film, you don't give the viewer that much chance.
No, it's much more controlled.
And it's a much more risky business, I should think, for you.
That's right, because there's to me, one of the great directors in the theater was Arthur Hopkins, and who functioned really primarily as an editor more than anything else. A brilliant editor. I don't mean to slight that in any way. But primarily, in the final analysis, it does wind up at 8:40, it's between the actor and the words, and nobody else is up there. Despite all the work that the director did, but in the film, you're absolutely right, Parrots. It's a direct control that you've got.
There's a problem that comes with this, though, and that is the sense of discovering, the viewer discovering something. To me, the greatest films have been the films that have sort of revealed themselves to me as a viewer in that I've had a chance to discover something that I didn't think I was going to be able to discover. And you, as a director, in plotting out the shooting schedule for a stage play, you still have been able to maintain a sense of discovery. I had read O'Neill's Long Day's Journey. I had seen it on the stage, yet in seeing it as a film, I was again seeing things that I had never seen before, that only you saw and you were able to capture on film.
Isn't it partly due to that wonderful medium, the camera, so that you can pick out portions?
It's a big part of it. In the play, there are 4 leading actors. In the film, there are 5. The camera is another major actor. It's another major role.
Well put. Well put. Bear in mind, too, that much depends upon how you organize the story or the presentation so that the viewer who is treated to just one segment of a scene is able to carry over to what came to what will come afterwards. For instance, where this does not work well enough on some particular individual, the Katharine Hepburn scenes seemed rather long, you see. And that is where, of course, O'Neill is of great help, because her problem, the mother's problem in this film, is part of the larger family problem, and is part of the experience of what I consider to be the real focus of the play, even though you keep him very delicately suppressed, namely the young man who will be the future great Eugene O'Neill, who learns from this experience and acquires understanding and, above all, compassion for frail, erring, and confused humanity.
It's true. To me, it was primarily about the mother and the boy. Mm-hmm. And I felt about the stage production that it was about the father and the brother.
Yes, why did you, that would be an interesting question to ask. Why did you prefer the mother-son relationship when in so much of O'Neill's writing it is the father-son conflict that is primary?
That's true, but it's also one of the fascinating things about why this play came so late, why it revealed such an agonizing aspect of his life. It takes time to get to the kernel. It takes time to get to the truth. And it took him time as it takes every one of us, I guess.
Is it possibly that he didn't want to, that the secret that he's reluctant to develop in the earlier work was the secret of the mother's dope addiction?
It seems to me that's very true.
In a sense, everything we've been developing here goes back to the point you made at the very beginning, that the film director assumes a responsibility. He's got to come to grips to remain true to the basic intent of the playwright as he, the film director, sees it.
That's right. Otherwise, don't take it. Don't take the job. Go develop your own screenplay. Their film is marvelously free. There are enormous areas to work in. And a great many directors work totally from their own point of view.